All right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Client Success Customer Support Executive Brain Trust. This is our post-event panel discussion. Today, we had a great discussion around scaling support quality with AI. And then we went into breakout rooms to kind of discuss how people are running quality and then how they're integrating AI inside of that quality. So we were fortunate to have Kartik with us, who's the VP of Global Support and Technical Success at Gainsight. And I'm actually going to pass the time over to him to kind of just share what his lightning talk was about. And then we're going to open it up to the room and have a conversation, a further conversation about it. So, with that being said, Kartik, over to you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, today's conversation was about scaling QA in a support center and how do you do that? I think the old school methodology was primarily to randomly test incoming tickets or calls and perform QA using some sort of a standardized rubric against them, which obviously opens it up to a random samples. I mean, it's kind of hard to do. Would you, always pick your best calls, worst calls? How do you know which ones you're picking versus, and then of course there's the human element, which means that it's quite a labor intensive operation. What AI really helps you with is to scale that entire QA process up. If you have AI essentially listening to your calls, reading your incoming tickets, then what it's really helping you or can really help you do is understand how well your tickets are being processed, given the same standardized rubric that you would otherwise use if you're manually QAing your support center's efforts. Obviously, it's never a replacement for a human being, but what it does is really help make the whole QA process a lot more efficient. And it provides a good level of insights that can often be shared with other teams. Coming from Gainsight, I would say one of the chief areas where you would share information coming out of support QA is essentially with customer success because they are ultimately responsible for renewals, and that's how you hit. You're directly attributing the work that you're doing to revenue that the company generates. So let me stop there and see if there are other questions.
So, first of all, I want to say thanks for mentioning. We talked during your talk about the idea of taking humans out or not taking humans out, and I appreciate you sort of circling back on that. And I think part of what we talked about that I'm very sort of curious about is that there's certain aspects of this process that still are very human. Things like how effective was the empathy that the agent and the AI, I think it could be reasonably said that it's not there yet on things like that. Very complex human emotions, I think it's not really what it's going to be good at. So is there, do you think, maybe like more of a hybrid model where maybe you're QAing 100% of the very clear cut, auto fail, black and white, yes or no, did you say this thing, to kind of create a subset where at least hey, on 100% of your calls, 86% of the time you did this metric correctly. You are getting close to 100% on always saying hello and goodbye. You are getting close to 100% on paraphrasing. We can see that you're asking questions. Like the things that are really very nutsy boltsy, I think you have a benefit of 100%. But then I think there is maybe like an additional, more handpicked, selective, augmentation to that with people. Does
Yeah.
that make sense that you would do both?
100%, because when you deploy any QA tool, as I said, typical rubric contains for support centers typically has things like, did you understand the customer's question? And the way you would respond to that is, okay, they asked a question. Did you rephrase it and say, did I understand this correctly? That's something AI can easily pick up, right? At the very end of the call or the ticket, you could always ask, you could mention in your rubric, you have to confirm that the customer's question was answered. Did you do that? AI can very easily do that, right? So it takes off a good portion of what a manager or a leader within support has to manually go through, right? The other area that I would also say that AI can really get good at is when it's trained on, let's assume for a second that, I mean, like Gainsight, for example, is a B2B company, right? So B2B SaaS company. So let's assume for a second that model's trained up on, a certain feature that everyone uses and is fairly low touch when it comes to helping customers out, right? So if that's the case and you recognize that your model's good in these areas, then it can also provide QA on whether we effectively closed out those tickets based on the question that was asked and the response that was given, right? Now, where the human being really comes into play, as you said, you're 100% right. AI is still not there when it comes to human emotions. I can give you a very easy example. Sentiment analysis is something that pretty much every AI vendor out there says that, their platform has, right? But I can guarantee you everyone is looking at false positives in that area, right? And,
Yeah.
and
Sentiment analysis is not a real thing.
yeah, yeah.
We would love it. We would love it to be a real thing. It's not a real thing. It's not a
True,
thing.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all it's detecting is the customer getting a little more frustrated? Sure.
It's word lists. Positive
It
words, negative
can
words. But
detect,
yeah.
yeah, it can still detect areas where a human needs to step in, but you cannot rely on it
Yeah.
100% of the time, right? And QA using AI is the exact same way. You cannot rely on some of the things that AI doesn't do well, but you can 100% rely on things that it can do well. And I think creating a rubric for AI is important to understand what can it do well versus what it cannot, and making sure that when you
Yeah.
design the rubric, you design it accordingly.
What I like about all of this is that none of this touches the customer. This
Correct.
is not about, I honestly think the rush to generative AI as the tool has been a big mistake. And I in my opinion, and I think, we this is the area that's better to focus on because
Yeah.
there's actually more up, more sort of like benefit up. Um, I am curious about the idea of sharing it back to customer success. Is that something that happens in a sort of automated way? Like, how does that actually get shared back? And, is the AI able to provide, I would say, like actionable insights for customer
Yes.
success?
Yes. So if you are, again, assuming you're selling a product which has, let's assume, 10 different features, but as a company, you know that, okay, we've got 4 of these features that we want our customers to anchor on because that's what provides them the most value, right? So in this case, again, the two parts of it. One, from an AI perspective, we can definitely understand which areas or which products the customer is having trouble with. And if we understand that, then that becomes an opportunity to maybe upsell some education, maybe upsell some professional services, and so on and so forth, right? The second part is with the QA. So if you're performing QA and you understand that, okay, I've got really decently good scores on the tickets that belong to these 3 features that we want our customers to anchor on, then that's a good indicator back to the customer success teams saying, okay, they're having trouble, but we definitely made a good attempt at resolving them. So here are our quality metrics along with speed metrics, time to resolution, time response times, and so on. So together they paint a good picture in terms of where we are with this customer. Now, is that the only metric you would rely on? Absolutely not. But it becomes part of the conversation that customer success teams can then carry on with. But to answer your question, yes, we can feed them automatically into our system. And of course, I'll put a plug in for Gainsight. And yes, we are a customer success platform. So all that stuff can be plugged in into Gainsight automatically.
Great stuff. Thank you all for that. Great questions, great discussions. For those that are watching, this is how our breakout rooms generally goes, is we explore where the sidewalk ends. We explore the places that don't have solid answers yet, right? That is what the brain trust is all about. So Matthew, Kartik, appreciate your thoughts, appreciate your discussion. We'll look forward to seeing you all at next month's event.
Alrighty.